The naval warfare of the First Punic War. The First Punic War, 264 to 241 BCE, was the first of three major conflicts between Rome and Carthage, and it marked a turning point in the history of both empires. While later wars would be defined by Hannibal's campaigns on land, the First Punic War was primarily a naval conflict, where control of the seas played a decisive role in determining the outcome. It was a battle for dominance over the Mediterranean Sea, particularly focused on the island of Sicily, and showcased Rome's ability to adapt and innovate in naval warfare, despite initially lacking a strong naval tradition. 1. Background to the conflict. At the start of the First Punic War, Carthage was the dominant naval power in the Western Mediterranean. With a long history as a Phoenician colony, Carthage had developed an extensive and powerful navy, which allowed it to control key trade routes and territories, including parts of Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, and North Africa. Rome, on the other hand, was a land-based power with little experience in naval warfare. Its expansion had largely been confined to the Italian peninsula, and its military prowess was built around its legions rather than a navy. The war broke out over control of Sicily, a strategically important island that lay between the two powers. Rome saw an opportunity to expand its influence, while Carthage sought to maintain its control over the island and its critical trade routes. Naval dominance would be crucial for both sides, as control of the seas would determine the ability to transport troops, supplies, and reinforcements across the Mediterranean. 2. Early Carthaginian naval dominance. At the onset of the war, Carthage had a clear advantage at sea. Its fleet was well established and composed of powerful warships, including the famous quinquiremes, large vessels with 5 rows of oars that could carry substantial crews and had formidable ramming power. Carthaginian sailors were experienced and well-trained, giving them a distinct edge over the inexperienced Romans. Battle of the Lipari Islands, 260 BCE. One of the first major naval encounters was the Battle of the Lipari Islands, where a Carthaginian fleet ambushed a small Roman naval force. The Roman fleet, led by Gnaeus Cornelius Scipio, was caught off guard, and most of the Roman ships were captured without a fight. This defeat demonstrated Rome's initial vulnerability at sea and underscored Carthage's naval supremacy. 3. Rome's response. The creation of a navy. Despite their early defeats, the Romans were quick to recognize the importance of naval power in the conflict. In a bold move, Rome decided to build a fleet from scratch, modeling their warships after captured Carthaginian quinquiremes. The Roman Senate ordered the construction of over 100 warships and, within a remarkably short period, Rome had a navy capable of challenging Carthage at sea. The development of the corvus. Realizing that they could not match the Carthaginians in naval maneuverability and experience, the Romans developed a new technology that would shift the balance in their favor. The corvus, Latin for crow or raven. The corvus was a boarding bridge with a sharp spike at the end, which could be dropped onto enemy ships, allowing Roman soldiers to board and engage in hand-to-hand combat. This innovation effectively neutralized the Carthaginians' superior naval tactics. Roman soldiers, renowned for their expertise in land battles, could now transform naval engagements into something resembling land warfare, where they held the advantage. 4. Major naval battles. Battle of Mylae, 260 BCE. The first major test of the corvus came at the Battle of Mylae in 260 BCE, off the northern coast of Sicily. The Roman fleet, commanded by Gaius Duilius, faced off against a larger and more experienced Carthaginian fleet. Using the corvus, Roman ships successfully boarded and captured several Carthaginian vessels, turning the tide of the battle in their favor. Outcome. The Roman victory at Mylae was a pivotal moment in the war. It marked Rome's first significant naval victory and demonstrated that the corvus could effectively counter Carthaginian naval superiority. Gaius Duilius was awarded the first naval triumph in Roman history, and a column was erected in Rome to commemorate the victory. Battle of Cape Ecnomus, 256 BCE. The Battle of Cape Ecnomus was one of the largest naval battles in history, involving over 600 ships and more than 100,000 men. In 256 BCE, Rome launched an ambitious invasion of North Africa, seeking to bring the war directly to Carthage's homeland. The Roman fleet, led by the consuls Marcus Atilius Regulus and Lucius Manlius Vulso, was intercepted by a Carthaginian fleet near the southern coast of Sicily. The battle. The Romans employed a defensive formation, arranging their ships in a wedge shape, while the Carthaginians attempted to use their superior maneuverability to break through the Roman lines. However, the Corvus again proved decisive, allowing Roman ships to board and overwhelm the Carthaginians in close combat. Outcome. Rome won a decisive victory, clearing the way for Regulus to land in North Africa. This victory reinforced Rome's growing dominance at sea and demonstrated the effectiveness of its naval strategies. However, while the land campaign in Africa initially showed promise, it eventually ended in failure when Regulus was captured by Carthaginian forces. Battle of the Aegates Islands, 241 BCE. The final major naval battle of the First Punic War was the Battle of the Aegates Islands in 241 BCE. By this point, both Rome and Carthage were exhausted by years of conflict, and the outcome of the war hinged on the control of Sicily. Rome, despite suffering several setbacks at sea, had managed to rebuild its fleet for one final confrontation. The battle. The Roman fleet, commanded by Gaius Lutatius Catulus, intercepted a Carthaginian fleet attempting to resupply their forces on Sicily. Unlike previous battles, the Romans no longer relied on the Corvus, which had become less effective in rough seas. Instead, they relied on superior seamanship and tactical positioning. Outcome. The Roman fleet decisively defeated the Carthaginians, destroying much of their naval power. This victory forced Carthage to sue for peace, bringing the First Punic War to an end. Under the terms of the peace treaty, Carthage was forced to cede Sicily to Rome, pay a large indemnity, and withdraw from the western Mediterranean. 5. Aftermath and impact of naval warfare in the First Punic War. The naval battles of the First Punic War had far-reaching consequences for both Rome and Carthage. For Rome, the war marked the beginning of its transformation from a land-based power into a Mediterranean superpower, capable of projecting its influence far beyond the Italian peninsula. Rome's naval power. The creation of a powerful Roman navy allowed Rome to dominate the Mediterranean for centuries to come. The lessons learned during the First Punic War laid the foundation for Rome's future naval campaigns and its eventual control of key territories such as Corsica, Sardinia, and North Africa. Carthage's decline. The defeat in the First Punic War was a major blow to Carthage's prestige and economic power. The loss of Sicily, a critical source of grain and wealth, weakened Carthage's ability to fund future military campaigns. While Carthage would recover under Hannibal in the Second Punic War, the loss of its naval supremacy was a significant factor in its eventual downfall. Before the First Punic War, Rome was a land-based power with little naval experience, but by the end of the war, it had built a formidable navy capable of challenging even the most established maritime empires. The Roman ability to learn and adapt at sea set the stage for its domination over the Mediterranean for the next several centuries. Rome's ability to adapt and innovate. Rome's development of the Corvus boarding device is often highlighted as a key innovation in naval warfare. Though the Corvus fell out of use after the early stages of the war, partly because of its instability in rough seas, its initial success showcased Rome's ability to innovate in the face of overwhelming disadvantages. The Battle of Mylae, 260 BCE, demonstrated how Rome could turn the tide of battle using this device, compensating for their lack of naval expertise by bringing their superior infantry tactics to the seas. After the Corvus was abandoned later in the war due to technical difficulties and losses in naval engagements, Rome improved its naval tactics, relying more on ship maneuverability, better seamanship, and coordination between ships. This shift in strategy was especially evident during the Battle of the Aegates Islands in 241 BCE, where Rome won a decisive victory without the use of the Corvus. The strategic importance of Sicily. The war also revealed the strategic importance of Sicily as a naval base and staging ground for military operations. Control of Sicily allowed Rome to secure its southern flank and dominate key Mediterranean trade routes. After the war, Sicily became the first Roman province, marking the beginning of Rome's transformation into an imperial power with overseas territories. This acquisition provided Rome with crucial resources, particularly grain, which would support the expansion of the Roman population and army in the centuries to come. 2. Carthage's naval decline and strategic missteps. For Carthage, the First Punic War marked the beginning of the end of its dominance at sea. As a Phoenician-founded city-state, Carthage had long relied on its navy to maintain control over its vast commercial empire. However, the war exposed key weaknesses in Carthage's naval strategy and highlighted the dangers of over-reliance on mercenaries and the mismanagement of resources. Dependence on mercenaries. Carthage's heavy dependence on mercenary forces during both land and naval engagements proved to be a double-edged sword. While mercenaries gave Carthage access to a diverse range of warriors from different regions, these forces lacked the cohesion and loyalty of Roman citizen soldiers. Carthage's mercenaries were primarily motivated by payment,